Have you ever finished your Quilt-As-You-Go blocks only to feel stuck on how to join them? You're not alone. This is the question you all ask the most in my comments section. Today, I'm going to walk you through the easiest way to join Quilt-As-You-Go blocks with a method that I absolutely love. Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. If you've ever wondered how to join your Quilt-As-You-Go blocks, you're in the right place today. I get this question all the time, and I have covered it in a few spots in my other videos, but I thought I would dedicate a whole video just to this topic. Today, I'm going to share with you my go-to method. It's the Easy Cover Strip method by Pattern Poole. It creates a beautiful, smooth join with no extra bulk. And be sure to stay to the end because I'm going to be sharing a bonus technique from the past. It was a historical method. Let's get started. First of all, let's talk about your blocks for this method. I have prepared 6 blocks so that I would have enough to show you how to join them into a large quilt. You are going to love this method. I'm going to be finishing this quilt with what's left of the Valentine's fabrics. When I finish that quilt, I will bring you back in a different video and show you how to bind it. But I thought 6 blocks would be enough to get us started. For the blocks, you're going to need a backing. I am using muslin because I wanted my backing to be blank. You want to make sure that whatever size backing you use, for example, these are 9, so you would make your batting 8.5, so that you have a 1/2 inch all the way around. Some of mine are off, but we're going to try to go with it. Because you know I can't measure as much as I try, but you want a 1/2 inch. Your top is also going to be 9 inches. So the top of your quilt and your backing 9 inches and your batting 8.5 inches. It can be any size block. Your block could be 10 inches, then your batting would be 9.5 inches. And I did these Quilt-As-You-Go. I just stripped pieces together. You'll see some different patterns going on here. Got some triangles in here. And this block right here was already done by my friend Carol, so I put that in there. It could be any block that is Quilt-As-You-Go. The next piece to this puzzle is you're going to line up your blocks, and you have to decide where you'd like your strips. We're going to be using strips to connect them. Just like that. Do you want your strips on the front or on the back? I am opting, because my back is already just a plain muslin, I would like that extra scrappy look, and I'll be putting my strips to the front. So that means wherever you're putting your strips to the front, you want to pull up your block as such. Just like that. So when you open it, it has a beautiful seam on the back, but the front will look scrappy, and we will cover that with our strips. Let's talk about the strips. The strips are simply 2 inches folded to the center. You can use a seam binding maker to make it if you'd like, but you could just as easy just take your strip and fold one side to the center and the other side to the center. That works just fine. And I have strips for each one of those. So we have our strip, We're ready to go to the sewing machine, and you have to decide how you want your blocks laid out. Maybe like this. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I know that these two need to be put together, and I know that I want the raw seams to the front. So I'll grab these, I will clip them because I have to get to the sewing machine. I'll take this to the sewing machine and I'm going to do a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Straight stitch, 3/8 inch seam allowance. When I have that done, I will be right back. I'm back from the sewing machine and I stitched a 3/8 inch seam allowance. You can see here I was a little short on my fabric, but I wasn't worried about it because I knew that the cover strip would cover that. I'm going to open this up. I'll move these blocks out of the way. And you can see we have a nice seam on the back. I do have some strings to clean up on the back. And then we're simply going to take and open our seam. I'll move that up for you. Just open that seam. There we go. Got our seam open and it's time to press. Get it as flat as you can. I know we've got some bulk in here because I did the crazy quilting, but it will go flat. Then we're going to measure 1/2 inch at the top and the bottom. And then we'll be prepared to place our cover strip on there. And we want to trim that strip. We'll place it on there. And you can attach it with some interfacing if you wanted. I am going to, got some strings here. Just do a little bit of Elmer's glue, just little dots. Just to hold that in place. Start at the top here, and you want it in the center. If you need to measure over 1/2 inch, that's where we're going to sew. I should have measured that before I added the glue, but you want it in the center. So we're going to lay it right there. Give that a quick press. The reason we leave the 1/2 inch at the top and the bottom is so that we can attach the other strips. The next step is to simply take it to the sewing machine, stitch right on the edge up all the way on both sides, back stitch on both sides, and you're going to go all the way to the edge. I'm going to go do that and I'll be right back. I'm back from the sewing machine and this is what it will look like. See how I just went right on the edge? It's joined, and look at the back. We're ready to add the next piece. So let's add this one. Again, we know that we want our strip on the top, so we're going to pick this up and join those. We will clip these together. You can pin as well. Off to the sewing machine, 3/8 seam allowance. The basics are your top quilted block piece will be 9 inches or whatever size. Your backing will be the same size. Your batting is a 1/2 inch shorter. 3/8 seam allowance to connect them. A cover strip that's 2 inches folded to the center, sewn on to the front close to the edge. So I'm going to go to the sewing machine and do my 3/8 seam allowance over here. Make sure you backstitch on both ends. I'll be right back. I've returned from the sewing machine. 3/8 seam allowance. I need to press open the seam. And I've got a lot of fabric going on here. Grab my iron. And see how that lies nice and flat. Then we're going to mark our 1/2 inch. It's right there. And at the bottom, mark a 1/2 inch. And then where your seam is, the open seam, you could make a mark here. And that's where your strip will lie. Just like that. So if you needed that extra protection, you could go ahead and do that. There's that side. There's a 1/2 inch. Some drops of glue down the center or whatever you want to use. If you just wanted to pin it, you could do that. Just to hold that. And then I'm lining up my mark, and then the 1/2 inch at the bottom, 1/2 inch at the top. There's my line here. Go ahead and give that a press. I'm off to the sewing machine, and remember, when we're adding the strips, we are doing right on the edge, but we are starting from the top and coming down all the way. Be sure to backstitch on both ends. I'll go and do this one, and I'll be right back. Now we've got 2 strips on, and we have 1 row. I am going to complete this row. Then I will come back and show you how we're going to combine 2 rows. And just a quick note, you could do a whole row and then come back and do your strips. So you could build your blocks, do a whole row, and then come in and add your strips. And then the next step is to add that next row, and I will be back to show you that. I just wanted to throw in that quick tip. And there we have it. We have 1 row attached. To connect the next row, so we have 2 rows here. I'm going to put this one at the top, and I think I'll turn that around. There we go. All you're going to do is just like we connected these, you'll pick these up just like that. We'll match up our seams. Clip or pin. And again, match up the seam just like that. And we're combining rows. Off to the sewing machine, again, 3/8 inch seam allowance. I'll be back for the next step. I'm back from the sewing machine, and there's my 3/8 inch seam allowance. I've got 2 rows connected. What I want to do is get in here and open up those seams. If you need to, kind of pull it apart. And just start pressing open those seams. Just take your time. It's going to be kind of tight where we already sewed these pieces. So just come in here and open that up the best you can. It will open, but it's just going to be tight because there's a lot of sewing that went on in there. Just get that as flat as you can. Give it a good press. Same way with this seam, it's going to be kind of tight, so go ahead and open that. See how easy this is? All right, I think we've got everything as flat as we can get it. And this step is just the same as the last one. I've got this piece of binding or strips that I'm going to use for this. Again, we're going to mark a 1/2 inch because irregardless, we're going to be binding this quilt. So we'll mark a 1/2 inch up at the bottom, 1/2 inch here. And if you wanted, you could do that 1/2 inch mark here down that seam, so you can line that up to know where to place the strip. Go ahead and cut the strip. Right there is the top. And we'll go ahead and cut right there. We are going to put some dabs of glue in here, just in the seam, just to help hold that in place. And again, you could pin if you'd like. Lay that in place. And we have the line here that will guide us on placement. And look how pretty that is going to be. I'm going to go ahead and press that. I'm going to go to the sewing machine. I'm going to backstitch at the beginning and at the end and do an edge stitch all the way. And I'll be right back. Look how beautiful this turned out. There is that center strip. We left room around the edges so that we could bind it when we're ready. But you can just keep adding on to this quilt. That is the most fun part. Here's the back. And again, don't mind the strings. I do need to clean the strings off. But look how beautifully quilted that is. And if you wanted, you could add another line of quilting. But I think the quilting on the back, it just looks wonderful. And this is all scraps of fabric. Let me check my notes. I want to make sure I did not leave anything out of this technique. The seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch. Your strips are 2-inch and you just fold them inward. So you can make a bunch of these up in the beginning before you even started your project. Make a roll of it. And you simply stitch down. You press open the seams and then you stitch down your cover strips. Isn't that amazing? This is going to be a beautiful quilt. I think I might have to keep it for myself. What do you think? So beautiful. There you have it. That is the easy cover strip method by Pattern Poole. And it is my favorite way to join Quilt-As-You-Go blocks. Let me know if you have any questions on this method. Just leave me a comment and I'll try to answer them for you. I know that many of you have asked for a tutorial on how to join the quilt blocks, and I hope this answers your questions, and I hope that you will start making a bunch of blocks and get a quilt done. It goes really, really fast. All right, let's move this aside. The bonus I wanted to talk to you about, it's called Potholder Quilts. Have any of you heard of that? Each block is quilted and bound individually before joining. So I did 4 of these blocks. These potholder quilts date back to the 1800s and were popular during the Civil War era. What they would do is they would take the 2 blocks, I already joined these, but they would take the 2 blocks and they would whip stitch them. I am demonstrating how I join these using a triple zigzag stitch. It's stitch number 12 on my Brother Pacesetter PS 500. But on your machine, just look for the triple zigzag, and then it looks like this. And then that's the back. And it's very durable. Don't mind my binding. I was trying out a new technique. But I wanted to show you how I am joining all 4 pieces. And then I may add on to this because I do have more of these scraps to use up. So I thought I would do that for this. For the binding, I was trying a new technique. I saw a video by Amy Dement, and the title of the video was Want to Learn the Easiest Quilt Binding Ever? And I will link that in the description box below. But what she does, instead of binding all the way around, it's an individual binding. So you go and you sew the 2 side strips on and then trim them. Then you come back and you sew on these 2 strips. But first, let me go and sew these 2 on, and then I'll be back to show you the next step. Amy, in her video, said to trim off these pieces, just like that. Flip this over and sew. So I'm just going to clip that just like that. I'm going to the sewing machine and I'm just going to sew along the edge. Bring that down a little more. Yep, just like that. And these strips are just 2-inch. Are they 2-inch or 2.5-inch? These are 2.5-inch strips folded in half. That's what that looks like. And I did want to mention that these blocks I made with a half square triangle, turned into a square, and then I did square and a square twice. And I thought they turned out really cute. Okay, back to Amy's technique. What you do next is place this on here, and we want 1 inch on each side. I better make a mark. Right there. So there's 1 inch on that side. Then there is 1 inch on that side. So there's my inch. We'll clip that, and I'm sewing the raw edge to the top so I can flip that over. And for this, see this inch that we have here? I hope that's 1 inch. No, it is not. That could have been bad. I need a whole inch. And that's not is that 1 inch? Yes. Okay, luckily I made extra. There's 1 inch extra there, but I need to straighten that. There is 1 inch there and 1 inch right there. Now that'll be right. All right, clip the top, fold over this, clip that, same thing for the bottom, raw edge to the top, 1 inch over here, 1 inch over here. Clip, fold over, fold over, I'm going to the sewing machine, 1/4 inch seam allowance on the top, including our flap. And you just want to make sure that flap doesn't get caught in your sewing machine because you want it to lie flat. So I'll go do that and I'll be right back. I'm back from the sewing machine, and I did want to mention that there is a book on Potholder Quilts, and it's by Pamela Weeks. I will leave a link in the description box below for that, but it's Pamela Weeks' Potholder Quilt book. and it's on Amazon. All right, that's what it looks like. Here's the back with the flaps. So you simply lay it down and you're just gonna flip this thing inside out, just like that. And then on this side, like that. And then it looks like that. And then you just simply fold it over. On each side. Clip this like that. And that's what it looks like on the front. Fold over and clip. There you have it. I'm going to the sewing machine and sew right on the edge again. And I'll be right back. And here is what it looks like. And yeah, I have some strings to clean up. But those go together really, really fast. And there's the corner. Hopefully you can see the corner. Right there. And this technique has nothing to do with potholder quilts. I just thought it was a really cute idea. Okay, so for the potholder quilt, what I'm going to do is use my triple zigzag on my sewing machine, and I'm going to join these together and sew right down the center. The width of that zigzag is 5, and that was plenty to do this one. So I'm going to go do that, and then I will join these 4, and we will have the beginning of a quilt. I'll be right back. Well, what do you think? And here's what the back looks like. Lots of strings to clean up. And yes, it would be a scrappy quilt. But of course you could do other panels beside muslin on the back. But I think I'm going to add to this and see how big I can make it. These are just small squares, but you could do larger squares too. But this is pretty tough. What do you think? Do you think you'll make a potholder quilt? I'm thinking it was the original Quilt-As-You-Go. And don't mind my binding here. I was practicing with Amy's technique. But I wanted to share that with you. We have to try new things, right? How about a quick devotional today? Our Bible verse is from Galatians 6:9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. Quilting is a journey, one stitch at a time, one block at a time, until a beautiful masterpiece emerges. Just like our faith walk, there are moments when we feel stuck, unsure of how to piece things together, but God's promise is clear. If we press on and trust Him, the pieces of our lives will come together in His perfect time. Keep stitching, friends. Keep believing and know that He is working all things for your good. If you enjoyed this tutorial and want to see more Quilt-As-You-Go techniques, check out my video on Scrappy Quilt-As-You-Go Table Runner with Prairie Points. It's a fun way to use up your fabric scraps just like today while learning a new technique. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions. I appreciate each and every one of you. And until the next video, God bless you.